So I was part of the San Francisco comedy scene. I was now accepted. I was accepted in San Francisco comedy. And then, like I said, I was getting jobs, I was getting work here and there. And one time I got this job, San Francisco State University. It was a great gig, 50 bucks I was getting. I brought along two, three other comedians. We all got paid 50 bucks. Didn't get paid on time though. So anyway, this girl that I know, she booked me and she was like, what, San Francisco State? And she was a booker and she booked us. But everybody got paid except for me. And I was getting kind of pissed off, needless to say. And I kept calling her and harassing her. You got to pay me I want my $50. I want my 50. So finally, she came over to my friends, to our apartment to pay me. And this one I was living on. And something with that friend of mine that rescued me from the other place I was living before. Anyway, they came over and paid. They left and they stole his bike. They stole his bike. And he got pissed off at me because his bike was stolen and he kicked me out of the apartment. There, just like that, I had to go. So I didn't have no place to live again. But I found another roommate situation. It was only a few blocks away and it wasn't that bad with this guy named William who was a freebase addict. He loved to freebase cocaine. I wasn't into freebasing yet, but then I started freebasing with him and I found out how good it was. I didn't really get into freebasing that much. So I lived with him for a while and then I found and then that didn't work out and I had to move from there after he was stealing money from me and stuff. Anyway, so I moved in with this other friend of mine that I knew had another apartment that's close to the Holy City. And it just kept going on and on and on like that. But I was part of the San Francisco comedy scene and I was working at that insurance company, Aetna, as a file clerk because I knew the alphabet. Knowing the alphabet was a valuable asset back in those days, I guess. They thought I was smart. Anyway, so that's what I was doing. Working the file clerk, doing comedy at night, living with this guy Arthur from Canadian. It was really a cool place. I mean, we got along good and everything. And one time, there's a club in San Francisco called Cobb's Comedy Club. It was a new comedy club. It was just starting out. And what the guy that booked it, Tom, he really liked my act. He really liked it. And the other guy, Ron, who's another owner of the club, he was a good friend of mine. We hung out and got stoned all the time together. Because I was still getting stoned. I wasn't drinking anymore, but I was still getting stoned. Anyway, one night, Tom called me up at the Holy City Zoo. He asked me to come down to the club because there wasn't any comedians down there. There wasn't big audiences. But I was at the Holy City Zoo. And I don't know if I was going on or not, but I was a Holy City Zoo guy. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll come down. I'll be right down. But I never went. And he held that against me for years. And he's still holding it against me. But anyway, Cobb's Comedy Club became one of the biggest comedy clubs in San Francisco. Serious, I'm not lying about that. It became one of the biggest comedy clubs in San Francisco. The radio show started going, all comedians started getting on the radio and everything. And it was the biggest. And guess what? I never got asked to do it. I was never a part of the club. I never got booked or nothing. He held that against me for my whole life. Anyway, that's the story about little San Francisco comedy thing with Cobb's Pub. I burned that bridge, burned the bridge out of the cafe, Punchline, but I'm still doing little gigs around East Bay and stuff like that, which I'll get into in another episode. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And if you don't mind, buy me a coffee and help support this channel, help support me and Millie and Mike and it. Just keep following, and I really appreciate you for watching. Keep watching, and I will talk again real soon.